The Michigan dogman is a scary urban legend of a creature from, yeah, you guessed it, Michigan. It is a massive 7-foot tall beast that stands on 2 legs and looks a bit like a canine, however it's got the torso of a man. One thing that's very notable about this fearsome creature is its extremely loud human scream that it lets out before it's coming to strike. The first sighting of it was back in 1887, and since then there's been many more sightings all in different regions of Michigan. What's interesting about this creature though is that you won't need to worry about running into it for at least a few more years. I can guarantee that you don't want to be walking around the forest and having this thing appear in front of you, but the good thing is that you don't need to worry about that until 2027. It's believed that this creature only appears in years that end with 7. During that year, it will be out and about in the forests of Michigan, hunting and preying on the victims that it finds. But whenever it isn't a year that ends in 7, it's in a deep slumber hidden somewhere in the state. If this thing was awake all the time, it very easily could be higher on this list because of how terrifying and deadly it can be. But because it's usually asleep, I'm not having it so high up. That being said though, still be careful if you're in a Michigan forest regardless of the year, because I can only imagine that accidentally waking this thing up would probably be very bad for everybody involved. Number 4 on this list is the Amazonian giant centipede. Centipedes are gross, guys. In fact, the only thing that might be grosser than a centipede is a millipede. The centipede that we're looking at today is a very real animal that isn't just gross, but it's flat out scary and dangerous. World Atlas says the Peruvian giant yellow-legged centipede, or the Amazonian giant centipede, is one of the largest centipede species in the world. The creature's about 30 centimeters long and preys on a large variety of animals. Interestingly, the centipede's diet is based not only on other invertebrates, but it can also overpower and kill creatures larger than it in size like lizards, snakes, frogs, mice, bats, and sparrow-sized birds. The centipede's primary weapons for killing prey are a pair of modified legs. The centipede uses these legs to penetrate the body of the victim and inject a highly toxic venom into their bloodstream. The killer creature can even climb the ceilings of caves where they can hold and manipulate their prey like bats with only a few legs attached to the ceiling. A 4-year-old human child was reported to have been killed by the centipede venoms before. So not only can this scary arthropod kill people with its venom, but it's super difficult to fight. That's because it's extremely fast, guys. Having 100 legs means that you can move pretty quickly, and this thing definitely does. It can move up to 3 feet per second, which is really fast considering its size. Also, the nature of its body means that it can crawl into super small crevices that you might not see. The child who died from its venom actually happened to run into this thing in an empty soda can. The kid picked up the can not realizing what was inside, and then the centipede struck. Running into this thing in the forest, or honestly anywhere, would be really horrible. If you see an Amazonian giant centipede, then just walk the other direction. Number 3 on this list is the Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers, as described by All That's Interesting, are animalistic humanoid creatures chronicled in the centuries-old folklore of various Native American tribes of the United States Southwest, most notably the Navajo, Pueblo, Apache, and Hopis people. It is one of many shape-shifting monsters from Native American legends. Skinwalkers are typically described with a beastly and deformed body, a marred, albeit humanoid face, and blazing orange-red eyes. But the origins of these creatures vary among tribal cultures. Some traditions say skinwalkers are powerful medicine men who succumb to the temptation of using their abilities for evil. Other traditions claim that the skinwalkers are the punitive form of any man, woman, or child who commits a deep sin. In any case, the myth of the skinwalkers is well known among indigenous communities. These Native American monsters are described as incredibly powerful and nearly immortal. They can only be killed with a bullet or knife dipped in white ash, a bit reminiscent of a shapeshifter from popular culture, the werewolf, and its weakness to silver bullets. Shape-shifting animal human beasts who are extremely difficult to kill and super athletic. These things are very dangerous and not a species that you want to mess with. Typically residing in the forested areas of northern United States and Canada, they often travel in groups, which just kind of adds to how absolutely dead you are if you do happen across some. Be very careful of the Skinwalkers if you're trekking through some North American forests. Number 2 on this list is an electric eel. So you won't be finding an electric eel in any northern forests like Canada, where I live, which is honestly pretty good for me. But if you live in the Amazon and happen to be going through an Amazon forest, then it's very likely this creature will be in the rivers right next to you. Definitely do not go for a dip in those rivers though, because the electric eel might be waiting for you. World Atlas says a shocking danger lurks beneath the waters of Amazon River in Brazil. The electric eel is not a true eel, but actually a knife fish capable of delivering a massive electric shock to those who threaten it. 3 pairs of abdominal organs of the fish allow it to generate electricity enough to stun an adult human being. The eels use their electricity generating capacity to stun prey before consuming them. Fatal attacks on humans are rare, but not completely non-existent. A single jolt could stun a human being enough to cause the person to stop breathing and drown even in shallow water. Multiple shocks could definitely trigger respiratory failure in humans. In the past, there are cases where the fish have delivered shocks strong enough to kill horses and even stun an adult caiman. If this fish can literally kill a horse, then we don't stand a chance, folks. There also literally isn't anything you can do about this thing other than just get out of the water. Like, it might be able to shock you without even touching you, so you might not even know that you're in danger. These things are also super gross looking and just not appealing as an animal at all. Super cool that they have electrical abilities, but not super cool if they use those abilities on me or you. And number 1 on this list is the Cherokee horned serpent. This is another Native American legend similar to the Skinwalkers, but this one is arguably far more dangerous. Another name for the Cherokee horned serpent is Yotun. The Yotun was, as you might imagine, a legend that originated from the Cherokee tribe in western North Carolina. James Mooney, somebody who actually studied the Cherokee tribe, wrote about this beast in a book he published back in 1992. He wrote, "Those who know say that the Yotun is a great snake as large around as a tree trunk with horns on its head and a bright blazing crest with a diamond upon its forehead and scales glittering like sparks of fire. The blazing diamond is called Yolonsoti, transparent, and he who can win it may become the greatest wonder worker of the tribe. Still, it is worth a man's life to attempt it, for whoever is seen by the Yotun is so dazed by the bright light that he runs toward the snake instead of trying to escape. This diamond is so dazzling that it's going to draw you in, and it's very problematic. You are going to lose if you fight this creature. It is just so strong and so powerful that unless you're literally an Avenger, you're just simply not going to stand a chance. It's said that these beasts are born out of envy and jealousy and come from the underworld. Massive serpents with incredible powers that literally come from hell. These things might just be lurking around the forests near you, hugging onto a tree and waiting for somebody to come and try to take the diamond in their forehead. There are rumors that one warrior was actually able to defeat these beasts at some point, but that is honestly just a rumor and never been confirmed. Be very, very careful if you're walking around a North American forest by yourself, and if you see a diamond, just run. Number 5 on this list is the Wampus cat, a name that sounds kind of silly and cute, but really isn't reflective of how dangerous this creature can truly be. How Stuff Works says, it smells awful, like skunk spray and wet dog. It has glowing yellow eyes and fangs. It kills animals, kidnaps kids, and terrifies all it meets. Creepiest of all, it's half cat, half woman. This terrifying creature is the Wampus cat. Generally on the prowl in northeastern Tennessee, the creature has also been spotted in eastern Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, and intriguingly at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. The origin story of this kitty is still up in the air, but apparently there are 2 popular ones. One says a Cherokee wife hid beneath the skin of a mountain lion to spy on her husband and his buddies while they were hunting. They discovered her, and as punishment, the tribe's medicine men said she had to wear the lion skin forevermore, turning her into a cat woman. And Anguished, she roams around bemoaning her fate. Another tale says a Cherokee warrior went on the hunt for a beast that was terrorizing his tribe. When he tracked it down, it looked him straight in the eye, causing the warrior to go insane. The warrior's wife wasn't happy about this, so she hid under the skin of a mountain lion and stalked the beast to exact revenge. When she found it, the beast took one look at her and fled, petrified. Cross your fingers that you don't ever run into this creature, because it may be the last thing that you ever do. Number 4 on this list is a poison dart frog. This animal is not something from legend. It's not a scary story that somebody told you by a campfire one evening that got exaggerated throughout the years. It is a very real, very dangerous animal that can be found in the Amazon rainforests. Poison dart frogs are incredibly poisonous. So poisonous, in fact, that it's believed the venom contained in one single tiny frog is enough to kill 10 adult human beings. It's really too bad that we can't get close to these creatures because they are truly stunning. Their bright colors are some of the most beautiful in the entire world, and the patterns on their back are marvelous to look at. In fact, these patterns resemble small darts, and this is one of the reasons why they got their name, poison dart frogs. The other reason why they got their name is because Native Americans used to take the poison from these animals and put it onto the tip of darts that they would then use to poison their enemies. If you were to get hit with one of these darts, you would die quickly, and the same rule applies to the frogs. The tiny creatures are only 1.5 to 6 centimeters big, which is actually a little bit scarier to me. The thing is that these little guys aren't aggressive in nature. If you're walking and spot one on the path, then you can simply just avoid it and it shouldn't attack you. However, because they are so tiny, it's very easy to accidentally touch one as you trek through the forest. Unlike scorpions or snakes where they need to break the skin, a poison dart frog's toxin just seeps into your skin, and therefore simply touching it is enough to kill you. You may not even know that you've encountered one, because if you do touch it, then you'll be dead in 3 minutes or less. If you are going to the Amazon, make sure you take a guide who knows what they're doing, and maybe wear some gloves to be extra careful of the poison dart frog. Number 3 on this list is the hidebehind. The hidebehind is a famous cryptid in American folklore that's been talked about for many years. It's a very deadly creature that, if encountered, could very easily take your life. Cryptid Wiki says the hidebehind is a mysterious nocturnal creature from American folklore. It's said to prey upon humans that wander the woods at night, and was credited for the disappearances of early colonial loggers when they failed to return to camp. Early accounts describe hidebehinds as large, powerful animals, despite the fact that no one was able to see them. As its name suggests, the hidebehind is noted for its ability to conceal itself. When an observer attempts to look directly at it, the creature hides again behind an object or the observer, and therefore can't be seen directly. The hidebehind uses this ability to stalk human prey without being observed and to attack without warning. Once the person is killed, the hidebehind drags the person back to their lair to be eaten. Ever since people have been chopping down trees, this creature has been spoken about as being a menace. It is fast and very predatory, and considering you won't be able to really see it at all if it is stalking you, then having one decide that you're a tasty meal is pretty much a death sentence. That is, unless you happen to be in possession of some alcohol. Beer, wine, whiskey, other hard liquors. If you're a lumberjack who is alone in the woods, then bring some with you. Now, this isn't so that you can get blasted in the forest by yourself, although I'm sure that that would be great fun in its own right. Having some alcohol on your person is actually a defense mechanism. If you feel that one of these creatures is stalking you, then drink the booze that you have. You may even want to take some of it and rub it on your body. This is because it's currently believed that the hidebehind hates the smell of alcohol and won't consume anyone or anything that's had it or smells like it. To date, this is our only known way of saving yourself from being prey to this dangerous woodland creature. Number 2 on this list is a Brazilian wandering spider. Similar to our dart frog, this is assuredly a very real animal that scientists have studied extensively. As you can imagine, they are mainly native to Brazil and are extremely dangerous. World Atlas writes, the Brazilian wandering spider is the most venomous arachnid in the world. Even the scientific name of the spider, Phonutria, means murderous in Greek. The spiders are called wandering spiders, as during the night they prefer to crawl on the floor of the jungle looking for prey instead of building webs and staying in them. During the day, the spiders hide in various places, including the banana plant. The spiders might also wander into human settlements where they might remain hidden in houses and cars. If disturbed by humans, they may bite. The small size of these spiders makes them even more difficult to detect. protect. Until 1996, when an antidote had been found, 14 people were reported to have died from the bites of the wandering spider. The venom of the spider causes extreme pain and inflammation, as well as loss of muscle control, which might lead to respiratory paralysis and death. What has this animal higher on the list than the poison dart frog is the fact that it's very aggressive. The dart frog won't leap out at you and try to poison you. It may happen by accident, but it shouldn't want to harm you. This creature does just the opposite though, and it will go for the kill. It's also small enough that you might not notice it, but big enough that if it sees you and starts running towards you, then you might not have time to do anything to stop it. A terrifying animal that you really don't want to come face to face with. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Wendigo. I feel like everybody watching this video knew that this one would be coming, and that just speaks to the level of lore that surrounds this ancient creature. Cryptid Wiki says, the Wendigo is a cannibalistic spirit resembling a zombie. In some forms, the Wendigo is the size of a human, while in others it can be 15 feet tall. The earliest description of the Wendigo was that of a similar appearance to a corpse, with a skeleton-like thin body with gray skin, sunken eyes, bloody lips, yellow fangs, and a long, slimy tongue. Later myths say that the Wendigo is a lipless ape with giant fangs that devours human flesh. It can turn a person into a Wendigo, which was one of the worst curses to the Algonquin-speaking Native Americans of Canada. These beasts are highly dangerous, and encountering one is horribly unlucky. I was looking for some potential ways to fight back against these things, and happened to find an expert list a few on Quora. They say the first is fire. Not just a torch or a bonfire, it needs to be completely engulfed in fire for a prolonged period, long enough to breach the outer Wendigo and reach the human inside. The second requires getting even closer to the murderous beast and somehow stabbing it with something long and sharp directly where the heart should be. Once again, that is where the frozen human is supposedly dormant. Frankly, both of these options are highly dangerous, and even if you did hold up a flame, there's no saying for sure the Wendigo won't simply overpower you as you're doing it. However, these are your best shots at staying alive. Hopefully you never have to do this though, and can avoid an encounter altogether.
In at 5, Knock Knock. Uploaded to Thought Catalog by Shadow Handler, this user tells the story of the time they were staying in a small cabin with their friend and dad in the Idaho wilderness. It was an isolated area about 50 miles away from the nearest town and 2 miles away from a logging road. It was around midnight one night. The author and friend had been messing around in their bunks, laughing and joking before trying to go to sleep. They turned off their lantern, but not long after they heard something scraping across the door. They both got up, confirming they heard the same thing. Then someone started knocking. No one said anything, just knocks, and they kept knocking, knock, 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 on the isolated cabin door. They didn't move, they just sat there waiting for it to stop. It eventually did. In the morning they went outside, but nothing was there, not even footsteps or animal tracks. So who was knocking? In at 4, Stranger in a Ski Mask. Uploaded to Thought Catalog by JWhite45, he tells the story of the time he spent winter break in North Dakota with his cousins. They were all at a friend's place one evening, drinking in their basement with a group of girls. It was around 3 AM and our author was growing tired, so he decided to walk home. His friends lived in a somewhat desolate area with lots of snow, but there were houses around and the moon was out, illuminating the street. He took a path behind the house leading into the woods, and then out onto more open land. During this time he noticed a figure walking about 75 yards away from him in the opposite direction. The figure noticed him, jerky and little, almost surprised that someone else was out this late. The author laughed out loud a little, out of shock or fear. He wasn't really sure. The stranger, however, just stood there, staring. He had a full ski mask on and was well built. He didn't say anything, but just stood there, staring. Our author turned, freaked out by the stranger, and started walking as fast as he could home. In at 2, The Whistling Marine. Uploaded to Thought Catalog by the Kiesler, he tells the story of a time he went on a road trip from BC to San Diego with his girlfriend. They stopped at a campsite just outside of Crescent City, California, planning to set up camp and get some sleep. As they drove through, they noticed it was relatively empty. There were even a few scattered tents around the campground, but no person in sight. Not thinking too much of it, the couple decided to have an early night, starting a fire and cooking up some food. They ate, had a few drinks, and then went to bed, their dog in tow. However, the couple were awoken at 1 AM by strange whistling outside of their tent to the tune of When the Saints Come Marching In. Odd choice. Not long after, the whistling turned into chants. I quote, "When you sleep here, you disrespect me, and when you disrespect me, you disrespect the US Marines." The chanter began getting increasingly more aggressive, so the couple decided to make a move. They unzipped their tent slowly to try and gauge where the stranger was. He was nowhere in sight. The couple quickly packed up all their stuff and hopped in their truck, driving to the nearest motel. The next morning, they returned to the campsite to grab their remaining things they left behind. As they did, they spotted a family close by who told them the whistling and chanting had gone on for another 2 to 3 hours after they had left, and that it was the scariest thing they had ever experienced.
Number 4. The Yotun. Watch your back. Stay away from trees with sharp branches if you ever think you've encountered one of these Nordic nature spirits. If you're not careful, you might end up as a gruesome sacrifice. Known to many as a son of Loki, this beast man thing has a shape-shifting capability and is generally pretty ambiguously defined. Often when someone is referring to a Yotun, they could be talking about a giant or a troll or a number of other large mythical monsters. However, today I want to make pretty sure that we are clear in defining it as a malicious, sacrifice-seeking shapeshifter. There are many Yotun out there, but it is best to be prepared for the worst of the bunch. If you've ever seen David Bruckner's movie The Ritual, you already know how horrifying Yotun can truly be. In the movie, 4 friends go on a hiking trip in Sweden in honor of their dead friend. One of them injures their knee and they're forced to take a shortcut through an unmapped forest. Always a bad call, guys, come on. Haven't you ever watched a horror movie? During their time in the woods, they come across an eviscerated deer hanging from a tree. One of the friends wakes up with unexplainable injuries, and they even find another friend praying in the nude to a wooden statue without ever realizing it. Very soon after this, 2 of the friends are taken and killed by the Yotun. The other 2 friends discover a body as they come across a village of Yotun worshippers. This is where the real scary stuff starts. They find out that the villagers sacrifice people to the Yotun in exchange for immortality and trap the 2 remaining friends. During an attempted escape, the beast reveals its shape-shifting abilities by luring one of the men with a facsimile of his wife. Then its true form is revealed, a massive, 8-legged, partially human, partially beastly, shambling monstrosity with huge antlers and bony human arms. Ready to hear how one of the protagonists gets killed? The Yotun reaches out with these bony human arms and impales the man on a sharp tree branch, leaving him to bleed out. Ouch. Coming across one of these guys in the woods means you'll likely meet the same fate. You might think that due to the size of it, it wouldn't be too fast. Well, you'd be wrong. It is extremely fast and will know the forest like the back of its terrifying hands. It's not a nature spirit for nothing. As a son of Loki, it is an excellent trickster as well, and will take the form of whatever it needs to hunt its prey. Loki seriously got around, huh? Fathering murderous forest beasts. Jeez. The impaling upon tree branches has a bit of a Norse background as well. If you've ever studied Norse mythology, you'll know that Odin hung himself from the world tree, Yggdrasil, and was impaled upon the spear in order to learn the secrets of rune magic. It's possible that the Yotun is impaling creatures and humans alike on trees as sacrifices to Odin himself. That's hardcore, but you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end. I also mentioned it having 8 legs earlier, which may remind you of another creature in Norse mythology, Sleipnir, Odin's 8-legged horse. It's all coming together. However, unless you're a Norse god yourself, I would recommend staying away from this one, and unless you like getting impaled on trees. It's your life, I guess.
Coming in at number 3, the Dullahan, also known as the original Sleepy Hollow. The Dullahan is a headless rider, usually on a black horse, who carries his head under his arm. Now, although the Dullahan is typically male, there have been some female versions throughout folklore. The mouth is usually in a hideous grin that reaches both sides of the head. Think the Joker, and you're on the right track. Not only that, but his eyes are constantly moving about and can see across the countryside, even during the darkest of nights. It has been said by those who have reported sightings that the flesh of the head is the colour and consistency of mouldy cheese, which as a dairy intolerant person is revolting to me, just saying. The Dullahan uses the spine of a human corpse for a whip, and its wagon is adorned with funeral objects, e.g. candles and skulls to light the way. The spokes of the wheels are made from the thigh bones, the wagon's covering made from the worm-chewed pal or dried human skin. Now here's where things get spooky, especially for anyone tracking through the dark woods. When the Dullahan stops riding, that is when a person is due to die. The Dullahan will then call out the person's name, at which point that person will immediately perish. Now even more terrifying still, there is no way to bar the path against a Dullahan. All locks and gates open to them when they approach. They also do not appreciate being watched while on their errands, throwing a basin of blood on those who dare to do so. You have been warned. And finally, coming in at number 1, SCP-1000. SCP-1000 is a nocturnal omnivorous ape which ranges from 5 to 10 feet in height and weighs between 200 and 600 pounds. They often have grey, brown, black, red and occasionally white fur and possess large eyes with good vision, with intelligence that is on par with the common chimpanzee.
Now, SCP-1000 evolved alongside humans up until, 10,000, 15,000 years ago, when an extinction event eliminated all but 1 to 5% of their population. This event was triggered by SCP-1000 contracting an anomalous pseudo-disease, which can be classified as SCP-1000-F1. This disease is passed on at the genetic level and affects every present-day instance of SCP-1000. Now, the effect of SCP-1000-F1 is as follows. Any humanoid that directly or indirectly observes any instance of SCP-1000 has a minimum 2% chance of being instantly killed through anomalous means via permanent cessation of brain function.
Meaning if you cross paths with an instant of SCP-1000 while alone in the woods, you have a high chance of biting the dust. All media reports related to SCP-1000 are to be examined for potential verifiability, and all organizations and individuals investigating SCP-1000's existence are to be kept under surveillance by Mobile Task Force Zeta-1000 and discredited or administered amnestics.
Coming at number 5, we've got the skunk ape. We've got 2 more words for you. Florida, Bigfoot. If that doesn't send chills down your spine, then I don't know what will. There's enough crazy stuff going on over in Florida without involving cryptids. Now, I don't mean to slight my Florida friends and fiends, but have you seen all the Florida Man articles out there? How many kids got munched by alligators and crocodiles last year? Did you know that Florida has alligators and crocodiles? So if the skunk ape can live in that kind of environment and thrive, it's gotta be tough. Our bipedal humanoid goes by many names like Swamp Cabbage Man, Swamp Ape, Stink Ape, and Swamp Squatch. Seems that the folks naming this cryptid were going for very descriptive words. Obviously, it was given these many titles thanks to its unique appearance and stench. Rotting garbage, methane, skunks, you name it. That's one reason already that you wouldn't want to come within sniffing distance of this foul primate. All sightings have noted the stench, but they've always seen it from afar. I would imagine that being close enough to really smell these roses would result in unconsciousness, maybe death. I don't know how smelly it is, but the human body is a fragile thing. The skunk ape has black fur and glowing red eyes, which is interesting because most primates lack the layer of tissue behind the retina to reflect light like that. This lumbering loner seems to be around 6 to 7 feet tall and 450 pounds. My friend had an uncle that matched that description too. He also had hygiene issues. You don't think? No. Sightings of our swampy pal date back to the 60s and 70s, where all sorts of reports of a skunk ape-shaped being hanging out in people's backyards. These reports slowed down for a while until an anonymous letter was sent to police in Sarasota. There were 2 photographs in the letter of what the sender thought was an escaped orangutan, but actually appeared to be closer to the description of a skunk ape. Cryptid enthusiasts, of course, were thrilled. Since then, numerous skunk ape videos have appeared, and there is even a skunk ape research headquarters in operation. Who wants to visit Florida? Filling out our number 4 spot, we've got the crazy critter of Bald Mountain. I know what you're thinking. Sounds like something right out of a black and white alien movie, and you know what? You're not wrong. But even if it seems to be some harebrained creature dreamed up by a sci-fi writer in the age of the space race and mayonnaise cake, this is something you wouldn't want to get up close and personal with. This crazy critter of Bald Mountain is an insect-like creature originally sighted on, you guessed it, Bald Mountain in Washington. 2 separate parties claim to have seen it, one a grocer out hunting and the others being a married couple driving through. It's described as being a horse-sized being with tentacles, suckers, and antenna, and giving off a strong green glow like a neon sign. It's covered in scales, has a football-shaped head, and seems to be of a rubbery consistency. First of all, it's the size of a horse. Horses are gigantic and powerful, and they spook easily. Imagine spooking this thing and it kicks you with its sucker tentacles and rips your face off before you get a chance to run. Not a great way to go. We don't know what it eats either, and if you're the only thing around, it may very well take a lovely alien acid fueled bite out of you. Plus, it glows. You know what else glows? Radiation. Very likely that your Geiger counter would be going crazy near this fella, which is not a good sign for your health or well-being. Even if you got away, who knows what kind of space cancer you might contract. Maybe you'd grow scales to match the crazy critter. After the initial sightings, a sheriff in Lewis County began an investigation. Before he could get too far though, the inquiry was halted by individuals claiming to represent NASA and the US Air Force. These folks were heavily armed and clad in military uniforms with no insignia. Naturally, the sheriff gave up and let this crack team take over. Once the special team swooped in, info relating to this creature dried up entirely. If the Area 51 raid actually went through, I bet they would have found it by now. I can see it now. Mason Ramsey and the crazy creature yodeling together on a hit tune. The world is not ready. At number 3, we have Bunyip. We're heading out to the outback for this one. Generally, you ought to be wary of any and all creatures in Australia. Pretty much anything there can and will kill you. Box jellyfish, saltwater crocodiles, blue-ringed octopi, stonefish, spiders, and snakes. Nothing here is cuddly. Nothing. Especially not the Bunyip. Originating in Australian Aboriginal mythology, this cryptid lurks in swamps, billabongs, creeks, riverbeds, and waterholes. And yes, swamps exist in forests, so this creature qualifies for this list. The name comes from an Aboriginal Australian word for devil or evil spirit. In classic cryptid form, the actual appearance of this one is up in the air. Some say it resembles a seal or a swimming dog around 4 to 6 feet in length with shaggy black or brown fur and a head like a bulldog. Others will say they are long-necked creatures with teeny tiny little heads, clocking in at 5 to 15 feet with a head like a horse, an elongated neck with lots of skin folds. From there they become more eclectic and less classifiable. Crocodile legs, bird heads, starfish bodies, big claws, you name it. But there are some mainstay features we can all agree on. Bunyip can swim swiftly, it has a loud roaring call, and it will kill you. Just like the honey badger of lore, Bunyip don't give a f***. Wanna know how they kill you? It actually sounds kinda nice. Ready? Bunyip will hug you to death. Oh, sounds like the reason I was so scared of Barney the Purple Dinosaur. Once a Bunyip gets its claws on you, it'll squeeze until it can't no more, leaving you loved to death. It's been known to scoop up women and children in the night and gobble them up, so stay wary. But at least we know nobody's dying alone. Coming in at number 2, we've got the Werecat. Werewolves are so mainstream, right? How many werewolf stories, movies, video games, songs, etc. do we have already? Let's focus on the less popular Werecat today. There are less solid facts on Werecats, likely due to the fact that they did not enter the popular folklore until later in the 19th century, long after werewolves began stalking the night and haunting dreams. It's also possible that cats are just craftier and sneakier than wolves in general, so therefore Werecats have hidden their identities more effectively. Smart kitties. While not lichens themselves, Werecats do belong to the lycanthropic category. They can shapeshift, have superhuman physical abilities, a healing factor, extra powerful senses, and the use of their gnarly claws and fangs. Definitely don't want to run into these guys in the woods. My personal favorite Werecat makes an appearance in the 1986 Weird and Wild horror flick, The Spookies. The Werecat runs around the woods with a hook for a hand, killing hikers, burying children alive, and pretending to be a benevolent savior. Unfortunately, there's nowhere near the amount of media dedicated to Werecats as there is to werewolves, so I implore you, go out there and start the Werecat canon. Equal creature representation. And lastly, at number 1, we've got the Kandarian demon. Oh man, truly saving the best for last here. This is an otherworldly spook that you definitely don't want to run into while taking a romantic weekend trip up to the old cabin. No thank you. Originating from the Evil Dead, the Kandarian demon is an ancient demonic spirit and the primary source of deadites and other supernatural occurrences. Described by Ash as a living evil, this foul and shapeless thing hails from unknown origins and seeks to cause pain and terror wherever it lurks, from steering cars into oncoming trucks to using its powers to control a demonic tree and commit certain unnameable acts, all the way to the destruction of a steel-guttered bridge. This demon is not to be trifled with, and it will ruin your day and then your life in the blink of an eye. On top of deadite creation, the demon can fly several feet in the air and is invulnerable when in its non-physical form. But let's get back to deadites and why they're so especially horrifying. Through many different means, they can possess any living thing and compel it to do evil things. Personally, I would hate to become a deadite while on vacation. Plus, the way they take you over is just the worst. Classic zombie rules, but honestly, it's so much easier for somebody to turn into a deadite. If you are killed by a deadite, you're becoming one. Even if you don't die, most violent attacks are enough to end your run as a human. A bite or a scratch is enough to turn most people too. Plus, the Necronomicon has a spell in it that causes instantaneous possession without the need for summoning the Kandarian demon. The worst, though, is the touch of evil, not Orson Welles. I don't know if you guys will get that. Film noir, please. This is a big reason we don't want to see the Kandarian demon while out on the trail with Sparky. More infamous than maybe any other type of possession, this one stems from a physical violation of a potential host's body by living objects. I'll say no more, but that would most definitely ruin whatever plans you had for the rest of the day. Deadites do prefer their hosts to be alive, but they actually have the ability to take over corpses as well. Even spooky, scary skeletons aren't exempt from the Deadites' influence. I'll probably be rescheduling my nighttime drive out to the remote areas of the woods, just in case.